that, never gotta sweat that. You can bet that, never gotta sweat that.
I'll be the rubber band, you'll be the match. I won't be a few. Boom, painter, baby, you can be the mute. I'm the reporter, baby, you can be the news. If you're the cigarette, and I'm the smoker, we raise the bet. If you're the joker,
Chit chat with cutie. That's what they said. Yep.
Chit chat with QT was killing.
Chit chat with QT for all of this tea.
Hey cuties, thank you guys so much for joining me for another video. I really appreciate you guys. If you are a new subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. If you have not subscribed as of yet, please make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let's go ahead and get into this interview that Mr. Martell Holt and Carlos King gave Dish Nation. So Carlos and Martell sat down with Jesse Wu, Head Crack, and Tamar Braxton. And it was a shady interview. So it starts off with Carlos being asked if he ever thought Love and Marriage Huntsville would turn out like this and be so successful. Carlos said that he was a man of God and he was faithful. And then he said, unlike some people, and nudged Martell. The shade of it all. Now, why would Carlos do that to his boy, Martell Holt? And Martell looked shocked and embarrassed, as he should have. I mean, it's the truth that Martell was unfaithful. And Carlos, let's be clear about that though. Had he not, you would not have a #1 show. That's period, point blank. Without Mel and Martell's story, there would be no Love and Marriage Huntsville. And I'm sorry, Martell is better than me because I would have said just that. But Carlos tried to say he was teasing. But yeah, again, embarrassing. Anyway, let's move on. They then asked Carlos about Sheree being on Love and Marriage Huntsville. Carlos said that Sheree is coming, will be in Alabama, letting folks know that they not gonna check her boo. So we know that Carlos is talking about the scene with Sheree and Tiffany, and Sheree did have to let Tiffany know, mind your business. Then Carlos was asked if he had a favorite cast member, and Martell jumped right on in and cut him off and said he does, Melody Holt. And I just thought this dude know that he loves to address her as Melody Holt. And I think it was Tamar who said, well, I don't blame him. And Martell said, why? Everybody is cool. Trying to downgrade Mel's importance when it comes to Love and Marriage Huntsville. Martell, same thing applies to you. If Mel was not on this show, there would be no show. Period. But let me go on. Carlos gave the politically correct answer and said everyone is his fave and he loves them all. Then Mr. Martell was asked about a scene where Mel, when she was sitting down with Nell, let it be known that Martell still wants her. And Jesse Wu asked Martell if there will be any spinning of the block. And Mr. Man said no, he's happy where he's at with Mel and he just wants to co-parent. The lies in Candy's voice. Because were those 10 dozen roses that Martell sent just a couple weeks ago for co-parenting or not? It's like, man, get the hell on up out of here with that. You know you still trying to spin that block. But anyway, Head Crack then started talking about Carlos getting emotional at the reunion last year, and Martell jumped in again and said Carlos is an emotional dude. And Martell then spilled a little tea and said Carlos cried when he first met Mel and Martell. He said they were at an airport when they met with Carlos. He said Carlos asked them at the time if they wanted to go on Housewives, and Martell said no, and Carlos started crying. Now, Carlos did deny this, and he shaded Martell again and said, "You gonna believe this man of all people?" Letting it be known that Martell's ass is a liar. The shade. But Carlos said that he was just excited because he felt like he had just met magic. And Tamar said, "Oh yeah, you was crying because of the coin you knew you were about to make." Bingo, Tamar. I think that's why he got emotional too. And then the last question that they asked Carlos and Martell, Jesse Wu asked about the Real Housewives of Atlanta crossover with Martell joining Real Housewives of Atlanta, and Martell spilled more tea. Jesse Wu said that she saw Kenya say the other day that some bald-headed man tried to come for her, and she asked Martell if that bald-headed person was him. I laughed so hard at that because you guys know I address him as scoop bald head ass Martell. But Martell did say yes, it was him, but he didn't come for her. He said he killed that whole scene and that Kenya lied about him being in her DM trying to holler at her. He said at the time, Kenya said it was about 6 months ago, and he said he had to check his phone because he really didn't remember. But he said, "Oh yeah, I did DM her." But he said it was 2 years prior, not 6 months ago. And he said that the reason why he DM'd Kenya was because of an interview that Kenya had done with Carlos. And I really couldn't catch what he said. He said something about he was thanking Kenya for the praise. So I'm not familiar of the interview that he's talking about with Kenya and Carlos, but maybe Kenya praised Carlos regarding Love and Marriage Huntsville. I'm not sure. I need to know how that ties into him DMing her. But Martell said he threw his phone on the table, basically to show that he had nothing to hide, and he asked her again, why would she lie and say he was trying to get with her? And he said he had receipts and Kenya didn't. So Martell proved that it was 2 years ago and Kenya had erased her message. And then Jesse Wu said that Kenya waited until the cameras were there to bring that up. And Martell said, yup. He said, look at Kenya trying to get a storyline, and she's not going to get it from him. And then this was a little more shade. Headcrack asked, well, how could she read into that message and think that it was romantic? And Tamar shaded Kenya by saying, when you're 50 years old and single. The shade. But they told Martell that he better keep his receipts on Housewives, and it looks like Martell has done just that. So it was a pretty good interview filled with shade. Carlos shading Martell, Martell shading Carlos, Tamar shading Kenya, and this was only a few short minutes that they showed. So this is from Dish Nation's YouTube video, and again, this was the sit down between Carlos and Martell. It also looks like the reason why they have been doing this press tour this week is because this coming Saturday is actually the 100th episode. So we know that is a big celebration in reality TV because they can then go into syndication. And I'm just going to say this before I go. I think Martell and Kenya both were testing the waters. That's just my opinion. Martell was testing the waters to see if she would bite by sending her that random message. And Kenya definitely is using this as a storyline, just like Mr. Martell said. We know Kenya loves the attention, and honestly, she's talked about it more than Sheree has even talked about whatever it is she has with Martell. Kenya mentioned this at BravoCon. Kenya has mentioned this in interviews, and you guys should have heard the audio that I released a couple days ago about Kenya sitting down talking to Candy and Manetta about this. So yeah, Martell was not wrong when he said that she's going to milk this for a storyline. And I'm sorry, I can't wait to see her milk it. I am excited to see the new season of Real Housewives of Atlanta, not just because of old Scoop Ballhead being on there, but I am a fan of the show. But like I mentioned, their sit down with Dish Nation was pretty good. Mr. Carlos King got called out again on Big Tigger's show, and I'll drop a video about that a little later. But you guys drop down in the comments, let me know your thoughts on the shade of it all. Do you guys think there is trouble in paradise when it comes to Martell and Carlos? A lot of you guys have been dropping down in my comments stating that you feel like this will be the season of exposure of Martell Holt, and I don't see it. I think that Martell is Carlos's favorite. I don't think that is Mel, and I think as long as Martell is Carlos's favorite, there will not be any real exposing of Martell on Love and Marriage Huntsville. Why? Because there hasn't been thus far. But anyway, guys, like I mentioned, drop down, let's chit chat about it. Please also make sure to like this video, hit that notification bell, and subscribe. Chat with you guys soon. Bye.